Kia ora katoa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking Jim Walker and the team here at Diggers for the opportunity to tell Santana's exciting story. And of course our thanks goes to the sponsors, especially Canaccord. Of course it's very pleasing to be the only New Zealand story to be presenting on stage, and certainly the first one in many decades of Diggers and Dealers. These photos that are hopefully showing here on the slides are of the area where we propose to be mining. There are some of them historic photos. If you don't know, gold was discovered in New Zealand in 1860 at Gabriel's Gully, and this lured gold diggers from all over the world, including the Victorian goldfields. A couple of years later, in 1862, a couple of those diggers discovered gold at Bendigo and probably named it for very good marketing reasons. Ultimately, this led to the discovery of rich gold quartz veins and produced one of the few hard rock gold mines of the era, one of which sits within our tenure and produced 180,000 ounces. All in all, over 8 million ounces of gold was produced from the gold rush up into the early 20th century. But of course, over the last decade or two, New Zealand mining industry has been somewhat stagnant as the social and political focus turned to protecting the environment at all costs, fighting climate change, and an emergence of renewable energy. Meantime, existing operators, such as our nearest neighbour, OceanaGold and Macraes, has continued with new expansions after more than 30 years in production and 5 million ounces. This leaves the local region and communities in no doubt about the benefits and economic outcomes that mining brings to those regions. So post-COVID and the realities of the cost of renewable energies, one example is pumped hydro that increased over 400% in 2 years. The country was ready for a new change. So in our general election late last year, a new government was elected, and that coalition government has immediately recognised the perilous fiscal state the country was in and set about to change it. This government is determined enough to streamline the layers of multi-departmental involvement in project developments and focus on a fast-track consenting bill for projects of national economic significance. Finally, a shift in the pendulum from ecologically sustainable development to be balanced with economically sustainable development, with the latter taking precedent for major projects. This is obviously the usual disclaimer, but with the addition of the requirements of our dual listing on the NZX, this took place about 10 days ago and was the outcome of one of our first meetings with the Minister of Mines and an undertaking we take to look at. That meeting, ladies and gentlemen, with the Minister of Resources, the Honorary Shane Jones, a champion of resource development that the world can follow. Let us listen in their own words of this new government and Matua Jones about how they are shaking up the regime in permitting for New Zealand.
So this morning, we're announcing our new fast-track consenting one-stop shop regime.
Once a project's been referred into the fast-track process, it will go to an expert panel for consideration. The panel will have a maximum of 6 months to do this.
I am the Minister of Resources. I look forward to leading the debate, changing the law, enabling gas and oil exploration, wealth development to take place yet again in New Zealand. Mining is coming back as well. We will have a strategic fast-track piece of legislation in this House. And with this legislation, mining will be turbocharged. And we are no longer going to tolerate tainting.
I just encourage all leaders of political parties here in this House to support the fast-track legislation that's going through the House.
We're going to have some certainty for the providers of international capital. They will be able to rely upon a fast-track regime.
Just need the right policy and the right investment to extract it.
We will not be deterred.
To the fibre optic cables that transmitted the signal, you name it, it all comes from mining.
No more eco-romanticism causing Kiwis to be able to afford to live in their own country. No more colonial guilt.
And stop all the vanity signalling.
Watching their sons and daughters go to Kalgoorlie and dig up Australia. Authority will lie with us, the politicians. Fast track for mining. New Zealand is open again for business.
So we have our champion, but prior to that government, we've been lucky enough to have discovered the most single significant gold discovery in New Zealand in over 40 years. A big call, but I'll take you through some of those discoveries over the last 40 years. Starting in the north, we have Waihi. It started with 1 million ounces back in 1988. Macrae's just down the road from us in 1990. This works, there we go. 1.8 million ounces. Globe Progress over to the west at 600,000 ounces. Of course, Snowy River is under development. They have 700,000 ounces in resource. And of course, our project. I present you the Bendigo-Ophir Gold Project in the Central Otago region of New Zealand. 2.46 million ounces at 2.1 grams per tonne. So we have the main deposit at the Rise and Shine, or RAS for short, 2.2 million ounces, including an indicated resource of 1.45 million ounces at 2.4 grams per tonne, plus a number of deposits at surface and within 2 kilometres at Shreks and Come in Time, which is a name of a historic small gold mine there. We're located in our east of Queenstown, best known for its obvious stunning mountains, ski fields, scenic lakes, fjords, golf, great dining, and of course, world famous Pinot Noir wines. This discovery is further east of all that in the rain shadow of the Southern Alps, 90 kilometres northwest, along strike of the Macrae's gold mine. We are located in the Otago schist rocks on modestly hilly, semi-arid land where vegetation is sparse. Hill country where sheep and beef are farmed in the summer, competing with rabbits, deer, goats, pigs, feral cats, and certain Aussie import, the possum. This is a flyover drone looking east, flying over a Come in Time towards our Battery Hill, which is a local promontory. We have the Rise and Shine to the right. We're heading it past Ferret Gully to Raz Ridge, which overlies the main deposit there at Rise and Shine. So as you can see, it's a little bit green in that photo, but there was recent good rains, but otherwise a very dry environment. As I said, modestly steep and very poor in vegetation. So with the discovery of gold in 1862, diggers mined eluvial and alluvial gold from the Rise and Shine Valley, which is the unconforming faulted contact between the TZ4 and TZ3 schists shown here in the blue dashed line. Their mining exposed primary rock alteration and low-grade zones, gold zones within coincident gold and arsenic geochemical halos. Whilst low-grade mineralisation was identified at Shreks and Come in Time, it was not hugely significant. The game changed in April 2021 when hole 007, the James Bond hole, was drilled through the unconforming cover and a broad zone of 2 grams per tonne of mineralisation was identified. A year later, and wide-spaced drilling had defined that this resource had grown to 1.7 million ounces of inferred. And another, back again. Yeah, another 8 months later, we had grown the resource to 2.7 million ounces. And then earlier this year, with 80,000 metres of diamond drilling completed at RAS, the resource was refined to 2.2 million ounces, but most significantly, 58% of that was indicated. We knew that we had the tiger by the tail, so we embarked on a scoping study to show the indicative economic outcomes of that discovery. So I'll just take you through the rise and shine. So it's essentially a blind discovery with now over 85,000 metres of drilling. It's 1.7 kilometres down plunge, and it's still open. It's 450 metres wide, with a central core of about 150 to 200 metres wide, 30 to 40 metres thick, high grade, beneath a barren TZ3 waste rock. We'll have a look at a few sections here. Section A, you can see the width and the thickness, and some fantastic intercepts, including hole 54 with 41 metres at 10.8 grams per tonne, as well as 6 metres at 6.7. And we step forward 200 metres down plunge to section B, and we have an intercept of 18 metres at 8.7 grams. Another 200 metres forward, we have section C with 30.4 metres at 3 grams at hole NDD 206. And of course, if we slice it down the long section, you can see quite clearly from the surface it extends down to that 1.7 kilometres below that outcrop to hole NDD 066 with 35 metres at 2.4 grams per tonne, some 600 metres below surface. Our mineral resource base announced back in February, on which we did the scoping study, stood at 2.46 million ounces. The RAS is the majority at 2.2. Importantly, our mining evaluation studies, as guided by the ASX guidelines, considered only a portion of those resources, 58%. Back in February was 1.3 million ounces, as shown there. The scoping study produced a mine plan that produced 1.1 million ounces, of which 14% is classified and as inferred resources, mined as a consequence of the indicated resource. We tried to get a balance between the size of our waste pre-strip and a consistent delivery of ore, and we settled on a 1.5 million tonne per annum CIL plant. We evaluated our mining options using a conservative base case price of US 1650 or 2,500 Aussie, and the study concluded an open pit followed by an underground mine down plunge to the north. We designed a pre-strip of 32 million tonnes, or just under 12 million cubes, so 1 million cubes a month for a 12-month pre-strip. We mined 12.1 million tonnes at 2.5 grams from the open pit, followed by 2.3 million tonnes at 3.1 grams per tonne from the underground. But of course, that was only on the indicated, leaving at least several 100,000 ounces down plunge in the inferred. Process recoveries averaged 93%, and we produced like 1.1 million ounces over the initial years, including, in that graph, just under 200,000 ounces in year 2. So the base case was 2,500 an ounce Aussie, conservative, prudent price. But if we compare our, if we update it with the spot price as it was last week, or before last week, 36.50 Aussie an ounce, we would emerge as one of the lowest cost quartile Australian or international producers. This study on only part of the resource generates a net profit after tax of just under 2 billion Australian over the first 10 years of production. Has an after-tax NPV of 870 million using a discount rate of 10% and a very solid 75% IAR. And of course, a 1-year payback from first gold pour. We need to find $250 million in CapEx to build it, and we still have to get it permitted, and we're working very hard on both those things. And of course, our market cap is only 260 to 270 million at the moment, with cash of 30 million in the bank, so an EV of 240 today. Why the low cost, you may ask? This slide goes on to demonstrate some of that. This is the location of our project in the Dunstan Mountains, tucked up away from any towns. We have fresh water supplying the Bendigo bore field there from the largest river in New Zealand, the Clutha, the Mata'ao. We have easy access via a paved state highway. That is a short 15-minute drive to Cromwell, town of 8,000 people, and a town established as a result of gold mining back in the 1860s, and a fine example of the ongoing sustainable economic development of Otago. Cromwell itself sits on Lake Dunstan, formed by a 440 megawatt hydroelectric dam at Clyde. And so we have low-cost electricity that connects via the local network with a 66 kV substation 8 kilometres from site. And of course, remember, we're only 1 hour's drive from International Airport at Queenstown. So, no need for a FIFO or camp, as we will be a residential mine, and with the benefit of low-cost power, fresh water, people keen for jobs, businesses keen for new businesses, major roads running right past the site on freehold farmland with agreements in place for mining. The usual impediments such as FIFO and hypersaline water that you might find here in Western Australia don't exist. We've been busy with a number of studies as shown there, and of course we upgraded our indicated resource at RAS by another 150,000 ounces as announced last month, and are currently looking to convert the other satellite deposits at Shreks and come in time to indicated. This is all on track for a December quarter PFS, and with the government to pass the fast track bill into law also around that time, the new year will bring a heightened sense of purpose. With our application for the resource consents and other permits under that bill very early in the 2025, a maximum time for the application to be processed of 6 months, we could be commencing construction this time next year. And with a 12 to 14 month construction period, potentially a story of one of the shortest time between discovery, early 2021, to first gold in recent times. And yet we're still drilling. You know, we've released a number of results in the past couple of weeks. This is that long section from before, focusing on here. With this area here will be part of that stage 1 pit. And with such results as 30 metres at 7.9 grams, 40 metres at 5.8 grams, we are well on track to demonstrating in the PFS what the scoping study showed of almost 200,000 ounces of gold in the second year of production. So thank you for the time to take you through this journey to New Zealand, Aotearoa. This is a shot of the Aurora Australis taken by one of our drillers with Elton on night shift, and yeah, thanks for your time. Thank you.